Several centuries ago, when Europeans built churches, they routinely spent huge sums of money to build fabulous churches that dwarfed every other building in town. The church was not only the largest building, it was also the most ornate and beautiful. The most advanced building techniques were used. The most talented artists were employed. Today, many people have the mindset that a church building should be built as cheaply as possible so that we don't take money away from doing ministry. Therefore, modern churches are often plain, simple buildings. They don't stand out, they blend in. The Bible does not give us concrete instructions as to which is a better philosophy. However, when Jesus was anointed with expensive perfume, he praised the woman who did so, revealing that spending money to honor Jesus is good. After Jesus predicted the destruction of the temple, he went to the Mount of Olives, which overlooks the temple. Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him when the destruction would happen and what signs to look for. Jesus responded with a long explanation known as the Olivet Discourse. He described the deceit, wars, famines, persecutions, betrayals, and hate that the disciples and Christians would face in the church age. He warned about the difficulties of the tribulation period. He promised that the Son of Man would come back in clouds with great power and glory to gather his elect from the farthest ends of the earth. Let's pick up reading at Mark 13, verse 28. Now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. Even so, you too, when you see these things happening, recognize that he is near, right at the door. There is a school of thought within Christianity that the founding of the modern nation of Israel is the fig tree Jesus mentioned. There is no basis for that idea. Jesus simply said, when a fig tree puts forth leaves, then summer is near. Likewise, when people see the signs described by Jesus in the Olivet Discourse, then they will know the end times are near. In his Olivet Discourse, Jesus did not mention the reestablishment of the nation of Israel. Verse 30. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Those who think the fig tree refers to the founding of the modern nation of Israel go on to say that the rapture will occur within a generation of the founding of the nation. When I was a child, it was said a generation is 40 years. As of today, the founding of Israel was over 75 years ago, and the rapture still did not happen. Today, some people say a generation is 80 years, which would mean the rapture will happen within the next 5 years. Again, this is poor interpretation of Scripture. The fig tree does not refer to the founding of the nation of Israel. Verse 31. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But of that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. Jesus said very clearly that no one knows when the end times will come. That should be enough for every Christian to eschew any and every attempt to predict the timing of the rapture. Verse 33. See to it, keep on the alert, for you do not know when the appointed time will come. It is like a man away on a journey, who, leaving his house and giving authority to his slaves, each one his task, also commanded the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, whether in the evening, at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning. Lest he come suddenly and find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake. Now the Passover and unleavened bread were 2 days away, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how, after seizing him in secret, they might kill him. For they were saying, not during the festival, lest there be a riot of the people. The religious leaders were determined to seize and kill Jesus, but they needed to be secretive about it because the people liked Jesus. This is an example of men in positions of power plotting to kill an innocent man because the innocent man was popular and spoke the truth. If that happened in Bible times, it could also happen anytime, including today. How many men in modern times spoke the truth and then were targeted by people in positions of power? Verse 3. And while he was in Bethany, at the home of Simon the leper, and reclining at the table, there came a woman with an alabaster jar of perfume of very costly pure nard, and she broke the jar and poured it over his head. Notice the perfume was expensive, and the woman poured it over the head of Jesus. Verse 4. But some were indignantly remarking to one another, why has this perfume been wasted? Think about the word wasted. Verse 5. For this perfume might have been sold for over 300 denarii and given to the poor, and they were scolding her. The mentality was it would have been better to sell the perfume to help the poor. Pay attention to the word scolding. The woman was rebuked. Verse 6. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. Why do you bother her? She did a good work to me." So Jesus praised the woman. The woman's action was good because she proved how much she loved Jesus. Her willingness to anoint Jesus with expensive perfume showed how much she valued and esteemed him. Verse 7. For you always have the poor with you, and whenever you wish you can do good to them. But you do not always have me. She has done what she could. She anointed my body beforehand for the burial. And truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what this woman did will be spoken of in memory of her. One of the debates we have in modern Christianity is how much money to spend on church buildings. Some people have the mentality that churches should be built as cheap as possible so that more money can be spent doing ministry. That was the mentality that led some to criticize the woman. However, Jesus said the woman did a good thing because she publicly and concretely declared the esteem she had for Jesus. Perhaps we should have the same mentality when we build church buildings. Buildings make statements. If we build cheap church buildings, it may reveal we don't value Jesus or our religion. If we truly have a high opinion of Jesus, then perhaps our church buildings should reflect that sentiment. Verse 10. Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went away to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. And when they heard this, they were glad and promised to give him money. And he began seeking how to betray him at an opportune time. On the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was being sacrificed, his disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to go and prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And he sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the city, and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher says, where is my guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he himself will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. Prepare for us there." And the disciples went out and came to the city and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. In past centuries, Christians built fabulous church buildings that were the largest and most ornate buildings in town. Today, church buildings are often cheap, bland, and barely recognizable as being a church. The Bible doesn't tell us which is the correct philosophy. However, when a woman anointed Jesus with expensive perfume, he did not side with the people who thought the perfume should have been sold to help the poor. Instead, he praised the woman for tangibly honoring him. Buildings make statements. If we are not willing to spend much money on a church building, it may reveal that we have a low opinion of Jesus and our religion. On the other hand, if we truly esteem Jesus and value our faith, then perhaps we should build church buildings that communicate the high regard we have for Jesus and our beliefs. Thanks for visiting Bible Mountain. If you have already joined my email list, thank you, and please tell others about Bible Mountain. If you have not joined my email list yet, please do so now. In order to join, go to BibleMountain.com, click on subscribe, and that will take you to a page where you can sign up. Your email address will not be sold nor given away. Once again, thanks for visiting Bible Mountain.